One of my students, he was doing direct mail and he was renting. And he would go down to, I think, the P.O. box or the UPS store, and he would have a UPS box there. And he would mail out direct mail. And so some direct mail came back, as it does, is that, that property is not there or doesn't receive mail. So it comes back to him. And it was somebody else there doing direct mail, and he got the letter. But before he put it back, he took a copy of it. So that might happen to you if you're renting. And if that does, and what he did, I don't know if I've got it here, but he copied the font, the color, the location of everything, and he started sending it out except for his name and his number. And so that if this guy was, sending out a lot of mail, then they were going to confuse his mail for his. And so this big time, statewide guy that's sending out direct mail now are going to get his letter with my student's name and number on it. And they're going to think that it's the rapport of this other guy that's been blasting it out every week. All right. So Wholesaling 101, welcome to Wholesaling 101. This is May. We're going to be talking about how to do direct mail on a driving for deals budget. I'm Mike the wholesaler, and let's get into it. This is me. That's my number. It's on my shirt. You can follow me at Mike the wholesaler everywhere except for Twitter and TikTok, maybe. I think those they don't let me get the ER, so it's just Mike the wholesale. But I like to keep it consistent, and you should keep it consistent on your We Buy Houses pages as well. So all of them is Mike the wholesaler. If you're on some site and you think I might be on there, social media wise, look up Mike the wholesaler and find out. And there's my Facebook group. You can join. All right, in the chat, and then let's get to about me. All right, I'm married to an amazing, beautiful, shy wife. I got 2 crazy kids. You might hear them. There they are. Here is Noah and Lincoln. There they are again. That's Noah, that's Lincoln. He's gonna be loud, I can tell. I collect Monopolies. I currently am in search of a Monopoly that you can only get at McDonald's when they run out of toys to give away. My kids got one, but they sort of lost some of the stuff to it. So if you have one, I will buy it from you. Got to complete my collection. I'm the wholesaling supergroup leader of the South Atlanta REI USA, because we are nationwide now. I won Teacher of the Year in 2018 with Angela Davenport for our wholesaling boot camp. If you want something like that, it was like a 9 to 5. I don't know how we can do that virtually, but if there's a lot of demand for it, that's something that we can do. Oh, did I really do that twice? Sorry. Okay. You can text script to 678-439-5699 to get my seller script. There's a little snippet of it, and then I'll send you the document. And then the other thing is I do driving for deals. I stream while I drive for deals, and I do that I want to do that on YouTube, but you've got to follow me on YouTube at Mike the wholesaler, obviously. And then so currently I do that on Twitch, so you can make a free account on Twitch and you can follow me on there. And while I drive, I've got the little phone camera there, and I go driving around for deals, and you can stream in the chat and watch me do it. You can also ask me questions, all that cool stuff. And Twitch is a site where you can watch people play games. They play the game and you watch them and them play the game. So I guess you can consider this like driving for deals as a game that you're watching me stream. Believe it or not, real estate is actually in there as a game. And so when I stream it, I say that I'm playing real estate, which is kind of funny. And I do it on YouTube, but you got to have 1,000 followers. Homework check. All right. So your homework was to set up your CRM, integrate Craigslist into it, analyze 3 deals a day, go to the foreclosure auction if you can, and if they're having it, and then continue to market. So last month we had, I think, 3, 4 now, because we were doing it every week. I talked about how to comp properties. Now we're going to be talking about snail mail. Direct mail. It's called snail mail because it's slow, and I mean it's slow, but it's direct. It gets to the seller. You might have gotten something like this: we buy houses, no matter your situation, get paid in as little as 7 days. Distressed, water, fire damage, blighted. I don't know what shells means, but okay. And they're glossy and they've got cash on them, and the house. Uh, I have seen that these sort of don't work really well because they're so, everybody uses these, and then the whole money. It just seems like a scam to me. But direct mail is a paper mail piece to a seller's home to tell them you're interested in buying that house or another house of theirs. So you see, we buy houses. They send this to a person, and this is not really targeted because they send it to a person, and then they're hoping that they either want to sell that house or they want to sell another house. And where it's at, where the motivation is where they live in their home, but they have another home. That's the one you want, right? Because in order for them to want to move out of this home that they live in, they're going to need a nicer home than that to move into. Nobody wants to move sideways if you're going to move, and nobody obviously wants to move down. So they want to move up. So owner occupant's not really a good list to go with, but you should really think about targeting your mail pieces into not just we buy houses, but we want to buy this other house. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. Why direct snail mail? Because is it king? Is it dead? And how? I'll tell you why. So not many other investors are doing it, right? Because everybody says, why go the slow route? Why send direct mail when you can call them, text them? Some of these programs you might have seen or bought say, get leads right into your inbox, Facebook marketing, all that kind of stuff. Why do snail mail? And you'll hear a lot that people say, oh, it's dead, don't do it. It's, whatever, it's not worth it. It costs a lot. I would say probably is right there in the middle cost wise. And if you're doing like paper yourself, it's pretty cheap. I've got some of these paper and legal pad ones here. If you, well, no. So those are probably more expensive to do an envelope, but the postcards, I think that got the math down to 37 cents a postcard that you make yourself. That includes buying the card stock, buying the pens, the white paper to do the printing on, aside from the printer. But all of that. So 37 cents, pretty cheap. But now if you pay to have it automated by another company, that's where you're going to get into some extra money. And then of course, how many you do. So not other investors are doing it, because if you hear a lot at these events that you go to and meetups and maybe other REIA meetings locally, people will try to downplay it, that direct mail is not good, don't worry about it. And that usually tells me that if they're not doing it, or if they're doing it, they don't want me to do it. So And what I've noticed is that when I do it, if I'm consistently doing it, uh, and they don't, then I'm going to be the one in the mailbox, every 3 weeks for this seller. And I haven't gotten really consistent direct mail myself on my property, this one or uh, ever. And I haven't seen any consistent direct mail from anybody. Maybe the We Buy Ugly Houses people, but that's like every 3 months, maybe. I would say it's not really that consistent. But if nobody's doing it, I want to be the one to do it because if if nobody's putting direct mail into their mailbox, then that means that there's an area that you can stand out in that mailbox or in their post office box, whatever they have. They're gonna get some bills. They're gonna get flyers. Maybe they're gonna get spam, and then they're gonna see your stuff, which is gonna stand out, stick out, and it's going to be easy to stick out. So you're going to pay like 50 cents or $1 for an envelope, but it's going to stick out because it's going to be the only one in there like that. Okay. As opposed to going into their email or checking their Facebook or Instagram ads, stuff like that. Those are going to be flooded with everybody, right? If they're on Craigslist, then other people are messaging them too. If they're on their phone, they're probably getting a lot of texts, a lot of calls as well. So you want to come to them in the area that they are, that doesn't have a lot of other traffic. You want to be the only one in that pond, right? Or as close to the only one in the pond with them. And I think it's too with the technology. So everybody, once email came out, websites came out, texting, obviously, phone calls. As soon as that stuff happens, I think all of the investors and marketers in general sort of went to that tech, and so that these non-tech ways are sort of open. So like using the an ad in the newspaper, maybe an ad in a digital magazine. I don't know if they do that, but ads in real magazines. I've seen Waze ads, the navigation. So if I'm near a Burger King, it'll say you'll come to the Burger King. So you could do something like that. Maybe you want to be in that area that's not gonna, that untapped area is where you want to be. If it's dead, then you'll be the only mail in their box. So it's usually good if they're dead. And people say that about putting signs out, bandit signs. They're like, oh, don't do that. They'll get you locked up. Direct mail is, you know, dead. Somebody told me one time that direct mail is illegal or something. Like, just tell me, hey, don't send me any mail, and then I'll stop because I don't want to waste my time paying $1 or 50 cents for a postcard to send you mail and you don't want it. If you don't not interested in selling your house, I can take that and put that towards some other seller that might want to sell. I've had to mail me a copy of what I sent them, and then they sent it to me without a return address. Like but then the return address is on the thing that they photocopied. Just weird stuff. Okay. If done consistently, the sellers will have piles of your mail. And what I noticed is that every now and then you'll get that seller with the manila folder, and they'll have everything they've ever gotten on the house in that folder. And I noticed that it would be 3 of my mail pieces. It'd be like 3 pink mail pieces. Back when Click to Mail was doing pink. Pink was like the new thing that came out. I was doing green, and then I switched over to pink. And, so I was like, oh, wow. So if I'd done consistently, I'll have 3 mail pieces. If I can get that to them, that'll show them that, I'm really interested. And so they'll call me. They'll maybe call those other people And when I get mail, I'm not really interested in calling them until I get maybe like 3 or 4 or 5. So I then thought about, what if I get those postcards into their hands quicker? So instead of doing every month, I started doing every 21 days, every 3 weeks, because 2 months go by. I've already mailed that seller twice. By the time that seller gets to go mail them twice, it's been 2 months. But if you do it every 3 weeks, instead, I think it's a month and a half that they get 2 postcards. And then in 3 months, if you're a regular wholesaler mailing once a month, every 30 days, they have 3 postcards at 30 days, or it's 90 days. Math is hard. So in 90 days, they'll have 3 postcards from a typical wholesaler. But if you do it every 3 weeks, you'll have 3 postcards in their mailbox, in their hands. I want to say 3, math is hard, 2 months and a week. Anyway, it'll be quicker than, you'll have 3 postcards. You'll build that rapport to the seller quicker than the other guys will. So you got to be consistent. And you can't just think like, oh, let me mail out to this big list one time and then I'll get something back. So instead of mailing out to a big 1,000-piece list one time and spending, was it 50 cents time? So that would be $500 to mail out one time. I would rather you mail out 5 times to 200 of those leads. So 200 of those leads mailed 5 times. Same amount of money, but that would get you a lot better return, a lot more rapport, and those people would call you back more so than just mailing out to everybody, throwing spaghetti at the wall and then seeing what sticks. Okay, so I could do this all day. Steve Rogers now, and we've got, was it Sam Wilson, the new Captain America? So mad that they didn't have him say, I could do this all day in the new show. Anyway, how often should I mail out? You should mail out 3 to 4 weeks. I would say do 3. You can do 2 weeks, but if you're doing it yourself, see, the problem with 2 weeks is mail needs time to come back to you. So when you send mail out, and say a person's in a house and they move out of that house, when they move out, they move into a new home, but they don't go to the county and tell them, hey, we've moved over here now. We don't live there anymore. We live here. That house now has the return address as that house, but it's vacant. So it'll wind up on a vacant list. It'll wind up on an absentee owner list. Depending on how they pull it, it'll wind up on an absentee owner list. But the USPS labels that house as vacant, and it should show up on those lists, but it'll have that address as where it's going to. So when you send mail to that address, what it's going to do is they're going to see that rubber band on the mailbox. That mail is going to come back to you. Those mail pieces are really good. You want to keep those. Those are gold. That means potentially you have the opportunity to not only buy that house, but you have the opportunity to buy the other house, right? So, wait a minute, never mind. But anyway, so you want to keep those that come back because you can skip trace them. And when you skip trace them, that's going to be the only way to get to those people. All right. So if mail comes back, you've got to have a way to have mail come back. You've got to have a PO box or a UPS box to have that stuff come back. And keep that. If you don't want to keep it, you don't want to deal with it, send it to me. I will take it. I will, skip trace those people and do those deals. So in 2 weeks' time, what you're going to do is you're going to send out that first mailing on day 1. 2 weeks are going to go by. You're going to send out that second mailing. That first mailing where they get sent back are going to come after that second mailing. And then you're going to remove those that came back from the list so you don't mail out to them again. And you're going to do that on the third mailing 6 weeks later, right? You see where I'm going? I mean, it's just a hot mess, right? So you want to do 3 weeks so that the mail comes back to you before that second mailing, So you can remove those ones that you're not wasting that money out of that list and send them to that one. Okay, now I think what I was trying to say earlier, if you have a house that's vacant and you're sending the mail obviously to where the seller lives, their home, where the taxes are being sent to, and both of those are vacant. If that mail piece comes back, and you can tell that by the address of the property you want to buy is different from the property that you're mailing it to, but it still comes back. Those are the super good deals because it's a 2-for-1 deal. If you can skip trace that seller, you can get both of those houses as a 2-for-1 deal. But uh, you're going to be paying more because you're going to be doing it every 3 weeks instead of every 4 weeks. So if you don't have a lot of cash to be consistently mailing out at least 3 to 5 times, go for the 4 weeks every month. Pull a new list every 5 mailings. You can do 7, you can do 3 or 4, but I would say every 5 is a good rule of thumb to pull a new list, because by the time you've mailed out 5 times, even if you're doing 3 weeks, or if you're doing 4 weeks, that's 5 months later. Some of those properties have been sold by a realtor, retail. They've been listed and sold. Some of them have been rented out to a person. They're no longer motivated to sell. Also, other properties have people may have been evicted or people have moved out, and so more properties are vacant. So you need to pull a fresh list every 5 mailings so that you're not mailing to the same people, because there's a couple of people that will be mad when you send them mail, but there's a ton of people on that list that will just get your mail and keep it, like me. So I just keep the mail. Set a task to mail out every month. If you're doing it yourself, mail out every month. You can set it in places like Batch Driven and other programs to do it automatically for you, and they do individual lead management, which is better. But if you're doing click to mail or something else like that, set a task for you or whoever's sending that out to do that every month. Take off the duplicate names. If a seller has more than one house, you do not. So it's really funny when I get like 2 or 3 postcards for different houses. I've even gotten a postcard one time about a house that I wholesaled. I didn't even own it. And I was just wondering, like, how did I get on the record of owning that? Or how did they pull this list? But you do not want to send the same person 2 different postcards asking to buy 2 different houses that they own, right? You want to send them one with one particular house, and then you want to have it in your system that they own multiples, like 2 or 3 of them. And then when they call in, they might say, like, which one. Usually, for some reason, even though the postcard says which one you want to buy, uh, you'll be able to tell them, hey, we also want to buy these other ones. But I would do the deal that they want to sell first, the one at a time, and then try to get those other deals. You don't want to do all 3 at once. You want to get one, sell it, wholesale, or get it under contract, wholesale it, and then move on to the next one that they own. How are you getting the leads to sell to direct mail to? Maybe I missed it. Okay, so I didn't actually talk about that, so you didn't miss that. But the way I get the leads is I get them straight out of Batch Driven sells the leads, which is the CRM that I use. I have a link for that somewhere if you want. And then that is $50 a month. Then you can upgrade to the 120, which does everything that PropStream does, where you can pick out the amount of equity, all of that cool stuff, vacant. I think you can do foreclosures, liens, all that kind of stuff. PropStream is a good one. You really want vacant. The other thing I do is with my mastermind, we pulled a collective list of statewide foreclosures, and we get that from an attorney. You could get that from Law Clerk on Demand, which is, I believe, a vendor of the REIA. And she can pull, I think, probates. Now, just for Georgia, but if you're in another state, call in and ask and say, hey, can you pull this county in this state? So they might be able to do that. There may be a person in your state that does that there, but she would pull divorce list, probate list, an eviction list, what is the other one called where they have violations, I think? Code violations. And then one of them was, I think, foreclosures, and then tax liens. And 5 of them. And they're a pretty small list, but she would pull them each month. Another one is Foreclosures Daily, which does foreclosures. But that doesn't have as much information as you would be getting from like an attorney that literally goes down to the courthouse to get the information. So that would be how I would get a list. What other ways can you get a list? Driving for deals. I know now in Deal Machine, you can actually pull a list from it. So you can get Deal Machine, I think $50, and then I think you pay $200, and you could just pull a list from it, and it will pull vacants and absentee owners and all that. But make sure that if you do get a list, that you can actually pull out LLCs, because you don't want to direct mail to an LLC, especially if it's like a real estate one, because then you're just sending them, what their mail pieces need to look like. That's a ton of ways to get leads. You can buy the list source, obviously. And I think I talked about this in the CRM, but I can come back to you with more on the 21st, ways to get leads, because I don't think that's something I really delve deep into on here. And I mean, direct mail is probably going to be the best one to do, list building. All right, so talk to 5 sellers a day. Talk to 5 sellers a day. Try to talk to a person who actually has a house, says they want to sell, and you want to talk to 5. And if you can't talk to 5, if you talk to, say, all but 2, let's say you talk to 3 people, okay, and then 2 people you didn't talk to, you would then go on to for rent by owner and for sale by owner on Zillow. You could go to Craigslist and look for people who own a home and they're not wholesalers. Make sure there's no ARV in there or cash only, and make sure it's just a person, just a gut feeling that this is a person. Usually, you're really good. Usually if it feels like a wholesaler, it is. And then take those people that you haven't spoken to and send them some direct mail. Send them, each of those 2 people, a direct mail piece. If you don't talk to anybody that day, send 5 direct mail pieces, and I will show you how to do that in a minute. And set it in your phone, set it in your CRM, wherever, Podio, to send them another mail piece in 3 weeks, and set it to repeat forever. And so at the end of the month, you're going to have people you've mailed to twice, but each day it's going to be little bite-sized chunks that it's going to be easy to handle, because you're either going to be talking to a seller or you're going to be mailing to a seller. And if you're mailing to a seller, you're going to be consistently mailing them. And this is going to get your phone ringing. It's going to get people realizing that, hey, you know how to buy my house. You can help me through this house. And it's going to get, your name out there into the world. The 4 things to track on a mail piece. All right, the list. First, you got to ask on the list, are they motivated? Okay, so can they be more motivated? So I've seen people do equity, like 75 to 100% equity, that's not really motivated. When you talk to the seller, vacant house is probably the most motivated you can get, most bread and butter that I deal with. But you got to make sure that they're motivated. Like I had a lady who divorced her husband. The husband is in California and she lives here. She's got the house. It's fine. It's got a little bit of fire damage. And then she's collecting, I think, like 2,000 a month on rent. The mortgage is 1,500, so she's profiting 500. For some reason, she hasn't been paying the mortgage for like a year, but it's a federally backed loan, so doesn't matter. That can be rolled back into the loan. I don't know if she knows that. And she just wants to get out from under the foreclosure. And there's a realtor that manages the property for her. And she just kept saying, I just want to get rid of it. But the husband wants 400,000. The mortgage is 375. So there's 25,000 that they want cash. And then I take over the mortgage. This is my plan that I'm trying to get to her. But she's just all over the place with, I just want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it. But we got this husband to deal with. So we would have to give each of them 12,000 and then pay for the fire damage. We would then take over the mortgage, roll the payments back in. There's also a $4,000 lien from an HOA. There's an HOA that we then have to pay each month. I think like $80 a month, maybe. And so it's not really a deal once you factor in all of that. They really got to just walk away. And I kept saying to her, do you really need to sell it? She kept saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. And was she motivated? And so I needed to get her legal name, look it up, make sure, about all the liens. And by the time I had looked up all the liens, I come back to her and she had said, well, I don't want to just give it away anymore. And, I was like, well, yeah, it's understandable. Just keep collecting rent. So she's not really that motivated, even though she was telling me she was. I could have gotten it under contract, but I would still need the husband to sign. And, there's no way he's going to sign for less than 400,000. And also he's in California, and he just wants to stick it to the wife. Also, there's a tenant and there's no lease. So what if I have to evict that tenant? Just not really motivated. If I were her, I would just keep collecting that rent, stick it to the husband, not put anywhere down that I'm collecting rent. I would just spend that cash like it was. I wouldn't deposit it because if if there's if she shows anywhere that she's got that, he's getting half. And if he did half the stuff she said he did, then yeah, good riddance. But not really that motivated. I don't sell lists anymore, but well, I guess I could sell a list now if you really need one. But what I would do is I would pull a list from Batch Driven. And the cool thing about Batch Driven is they don't charge you per the lead, they charge you to skip trace it. So I could sell that to you, or I could even sell you a skip trace list. But as soon as I sell it to you, whatever state you're in, I'd have to delete it out of Batch Driven. But yeah, if you can get a list, you can use Batch Driven yourself, or Freedom Soft, or whatever CRM I'm sure will sell leads. You got the mail piece, what it looks like. You got postcards. Now, postcards are going to get a lot more people than any other mail piece, but they're going to get people who are on the fence and who are on their side of the fence, and they are also on your side. So you're going to get a little bit of everything. All right, people who want to sell, people who don't want to sell, people who, well, I just got your letter, just want to see what kind of offer you was going to make. The letters are good. They cost a little bit more. So send postcards out first, and then you can send letters. And letters are good. And the reason you want to do that as opposed to postcards is that letters will get less people, but the people that take the time to open the letter and call the number are going to be slightly more on your side of the fence. They're going to be slightly more ready to sell than the postcard people. Postcard people is just people calling. And I hate to say it, but sometimes they'll put the mail piece in a different mailbox. It'll go like we get this neighbor's mail, we get this neighbor's mail. I'm sure they get our mail and just stick it back in the box and put the thing up. Sometimes they don't. If it's a postcard, if it's a spam looking one, I've had that happen. I've had the grandson pick out a letter out of the mailbox, try to claim to be the granddad who owned the house, told me, "Oh yeah, it's vacant. Just go look at it." I get in there and there's a purse, keys hanging up, and I'm like, "Oh man, this is gonna look bad." So I get out of there, and lady calls the granddad. The granddad then calls, uh, I think, gets onto the kid, and yeah, oof, it was so bad. I gave the neighbor my phone number, and he called me and told me the whole thing. And was like, the lady's real mad that somebody was in her house and she's a tenant. So now the guy's not even going to do a deal with me. So yeah, horror stories. Boxes. Okay, so I've got a box here. And this is a flat rate shipping box. And let's see if I got anything on here. We'll just do this side. So it's a flat rate shipping box. And I think this one is a lot cleaner and newer. You can get a flat rate shipping box at USPS, and they're free. This is the small one. This is like $5. There are some that are bigger. I think they're 20, 40 bucks, whatever, to ship. You just go in, pick them up. They're flat, and then you fold them up. You can see here is where you put in the to and from on here. And what's cool about this is if you get this in the mail, you're gonna be like, dude, what is this? Like like, what is it, Ambien and Amazon.com are like the best way to, Secret Santa yourself. You take the Ambien and then you get stuff in the mail. You're like, oh, what is all this? People are like, what did I order? They're gonna be like, what did you order? What kind of box is this? They're gonna open this. So you got to think to yourself, this is like $5 to ship. It's expensive. You put the letter in here. You also want to put like chocolates or nuts or quarters or something in here that's going to move around. And so it's expensive, but you got to think, is that price worth the deal? So if I can meet the seller, find out if they want to sell or not, would I pay $5, $6, $7 for that to know, so I can just take them off my list? If you've got a buyer that's already talking to you and they say, hey, I want that house right there, find me that seller, get them for me, 50,000. I would buy one of these, send it to them, put in 2 almonds, say, you'd have to be nuts not to give me a call, help you with this house. I put in chocolates for right before Valentine's Day, and I said, I know you love the house, but are you in love with the house? Okay, you can put coins, quarters in here and say, hey, there's more where that came from. And I've seen some people where they have the little envelope, the little window, and they'll put like $1 or a blank check from an account that's not active anymore, and they'll void it out, but they'll put the check in there and they'll say, oh, there's more where this came from. But when people see that, they rip them open. No honor at all. But yeah, big box. And then if you don't want to mail this, you could just set this on the front steps, or you could get the big envelope ones. They're just like this, but bigger. And when they do their weekly, monthly drive-by, they'll see it, or the neighbors will see it and say, hey, Bill, you got a package at that house. They're like, what? I don't send any packages out there. And you can just put your letter inside that says, hey, we want to help you buy this house or sell this house. We'll pay cash, take over payments, all of that stuff. So boxes are really cool. Let me show you how to make a yellow letter. All right, now this is some fancy technology. Okay, so you take one of these. Do you know what these are? Oh, do you not see anything? The Can y'all not see my picture? Wait, let me do this. Stop the share. Okay, so it's just me right here. This, did you see this? Or did you miss it? Okay, so this is what it is. It's a flat rate shipping box. They're like $5. It's a box. Yeah. Oh, okay, good. And then here is the legal pad, yellow pad. You want the yellow because the yellow sticks out. If you can get pink or green or some other color, you can do that. And these are really good if you get the little windows and they'll see this sticking through, that'll stick out. But what I would do is I would get like I don't have any right here right now, but because I do all of mine stuff through Batch Driven. But when I did do letters myself, I would get what I call Meemaw letters. My Meemaw would send me a birthday card, and it would be like big pastel colors, and the envelope would be huge, some weird like that. I would just stick these in there. But if you don't have that, you can get the ones with the windows and still stick out, even though you've got those plain white envelopes. But you take this, and you take, not that one. Not that one. Throw it away. There we go. So you take this and you put this and you line it up. And I wish it would like flip it around, but so you put here dear, and then you leave it blank right there. And I can see through the paper. I know you probably can't, but you see the lines on the back right here. You want to line that up so that they are on the line. And you want to line this up with the perforated cut like that. There's a little bit of a gap. I don't know if you can see that, but you want to line it up with the perforated mark and not the top. And then you want to say, Mike, I'm interested in buying, and then leave the next whole line blank. And then I can pay all cash, close quick, pay all the fees, buy as is. You get all four of the things you want to hit. You say, please call me, put your number, sign it. And then I used to work at Walmart, so my calling card is this smiley face that they used to have. So if I put that on I forgot to do that on the postcards, but if I put that on all kinds of my mail pieces, they'll just know, hey, that's that one guy, Mike, right? So you do this, and then you take it off. You rip the paper off of here, and you take this and you put this in the printer, or you go to Kinko's or FedEx or any printing place like Office Max, Office Depot, and it should come out like this. Now you see how it's on the line. Now, once it's here, I've got black ink, and you want to use black. I mean, if you use red, you've got to handwrite the whole thing, because if this gets printed out in red ink, this ink is going to be dull, so that when you take a red pen and you write in their name and the address, it's going to be different. Now, what you could do is you could do this in red and then take a black pen and write their name and the address of the property. But you want to see that this is like not a font, it's not pre-printed. People will check for that. They will tell you, hey, thank you for writing me a letter. And if it looks pre-printed like a font, they will tell you, they will complain. They notice. You want them to be able to CSI that this is real. This is a real font, but it's just this copied onto yellow paper. Yes, I will get to the postcards in a second. Or right now. So for the postcards, what I do is same thing. I take this and some cardstock, and you can see I've got it so that it can be cut into fourths. And we've got the We Buy Houses, call or text, my phone number, and I've got some different ones on here. So sell your house easy, call or text. Mike's House Help, call today. I want to help you with your house, phone number. This way, if you mail to the same list again, their chances of them getting the same one again is very low. Because again, they will let you know and get mad if they get the same. I did have one where it was just this copied on each one. And then I got smart and I let my wife do it because her handwriting was better. And I used a thicker marker. We used a big, thick, I think a Magnum marker from Home Depot. Why you can only get those at Home Depot, I don't know. But we would make it super thick, and we could do other colors because you see you're not adding in the property. So these are not customized. This is the first batch of postcards. And so you put that in the printer, you put the cardstock. And again, if you know me, you know my calling card is orange. So of course I'm going to use orange. There are other colors in here. And I got I think the Neo pack. So there's cosmic orange, there's pink, yellow, green. So you can send all to them. They all stick out. And then what it makes is it will look like this. And then you take this to any printing place, Office Max, Office Depot, and they charge you, I think it's $2 per cut. And that's added in as well. So you bring in a stack of these and they'll cut them once, and then you'll have postcards. But then you're not done. Then you have to print out that on here. And you put this cardstock the other way into the printer. And then you put this on here. And now on here, all you're doing is your return address. You got to put your return address, and you got to put your name. You got to put, if you could put you and your wife's name. If you don't have a wife, put your girlfriend. If you don't have a girlfriend or a husband or a boyfriend, just put you and somebody else on here, because they will be more likely to call. You know, I've had one guy in the history of ever who actually was like, you know, is she going to be here? Is Lindsay going to be there? And I was like, I mean, she might, but she might not want to get out of the car. But only one time did somebody call me out on it. But that, and then you can, and then there's space over here to put the postcard, the stamp for the postcard. And you have to go to a UPS or USPS store and get postcard stamps there, and they cost 36 cents. And then when I did the math of how much the cardstock, the ink, the plain white paper, the pens that I bought, all of that came in the cuts, all of that came down to less than a penny. So I rounded up to a penny. So that means that each postcard with a stamp is now 37 cents. And then you can see on the back, so there's the postcard, and then on the back would be the address to send it to. Now, the only thing you have to do here is I get my wife to go in and she puts the address where they live. So I would use this for like foreclosures. And of course, you don't want to put foreclosures on here. You don't want the neighbors to know or the mailman to know because they'll get mad. And then that's it. And you just take that big stack of postcards that you now have and you send those in the mailbox and you put the thing up. You can go down and just take it to the post office and do it that way. But whatever way works. Now this one is super secret. All right, don't go telling nobody about this one. But you can see here that I even went off the lines a little bit, but I used my right hand. So I'm left-handed. So I used my right hand, and it looks like I'm drunk. If you can see that. Looks really bad. All right. And it says, if you can't tell, I need to sell 123 Main Street. Ooh, that's real bad. All cash, no realtors. Drive by, take a look, then call. I'll let you in. The phone number, and then I just put Matt S on there, and then it will get printed out again like this. And right here, you then put their name in black ink. You fold this up, tape it, duct tape it to the letter, and you send this to a buyer. So you've got a vacant property under contract. You've got a lockbox on it on the back door, and you send them this to your cash buyers, and you handwrite the address. The return address is the property, so that's where they'll get the address from. And then when they go drive by and look, and they're like, "Hey, I'm here. Let me in. I want to buy." They're on the prowl. They're like, what's that mean with the Black Panther coming down on the prowl? And it's like, when I see a for sale by owner sign, right? That's what they're thinking. They're like, "Oh, I'm on the hunt. I'm going to get this person, take advantage of them." And then you've dextered them, but they're there at the house already, and you're just like, "Here's a lockbox code. Put your stuff in, take a look. It's $37,000 cash. Let me know if you want to buy it." And yeah, so that's all of the how to do postcard stuff and yellow letters. Let me go back and share my screen. Oh man, technical difficulties. Oh. All right, share my screen. There we go. Okay, can y'all still see it? Or let me know if you can't see it. Good, good. All right, Devin, good, good. Let me show you how to make a yellow letter. Let me show you how to make a postcard. The copy. All right, so what is written on the card? This is probably the most important part. All right, so you want to let them know that you pay cash, you close quick, you pay all the fees, seller commissions, all of that, that's you. And you buy as is. So these 4 things I found in a realtor article, maybe, about what sellers told them that they wanted. I just then converted that into for us. Of course, they couldn't pay all the fees, but they said, "Oh, get the seller lower fees than the competition." So I've got all that on here. These 4 things is what people want to hear. It should sound like you are just like them. All right. So I say, "Mike here. Hey, you see on that one, I put a W and then a slash to mean with. And not like a super big company. So no gloss, no super fancy, no cash here and then a house here and you going, right? I heard of a guy one time who took click to mail and he just got the biggest postcard he could get. And then on that postcard, he put just a picture of his, I think he had a Great Dane, a purebred Great Dane. We've got a Great Dane, but I could do him. He's a pretty big dog. But he put a Great Dane on there, and I think he said Drago, something like Draco. Drago eats realtors for breakfast. That's all it said. And then his phone number. No, we buy houses, no sell your house, nothing. That's what he put on there. And so perfect example of what you could do to stand out. So not like a super big company, right? And if you can, you got to have the stamps on there, because if you do this kind of thing, that, oh, instant turn off. But you put a little crooked stamp on there, oh, that's chef's kiss. Don't sound thirsty. You don't want to have like a bunch of just text on there for them to read. About all the things. Yeah, so one guy put a story on there. I did this deal, and I got all their mail. Get all the mail. When you do a deal, when you meet a seller, ask them for their mail. Pay them $20 for their mail if you can. Totally worth it. All right. Get that mail and see what they're getting. And I saw on here, this was a buddy of mine, I was on Facebook with him, and I was like, man, you got a lot on here. I mean, there's a whole story about like how he got started flipping houses, what he does with the house after he does it. I don't know if that works, but make sure that you do that, but you don't sound thirsty. Yeah. Use your name instead of a company. So your name, you want your first and last name. And if you have if your name isn't like Mike Watkins, hope I'm going to say this right, La Travis. If your name is not so, like there's a guy named Tidy Jones in Macon. If your name is like simple like that, what you could do is you could make like some fake Facebook accounts with Tidy Jones, but have somebody that looks different on there, and put addresses on there of different places so it's not you. You could do stuff like that so they can't find you, or you could just use a different name, like a stage name. If you get ones from We Buy Ugly Houses, they are actually, they say, I think it's Preston or Clayton, something like that. I'm not really good with names, but it'll say Clayton on there. And I'm like, who's Clayton? I was talking to this We Buy Ugly Houses guy, because it's a franchise. And he was like, oh, nobody's named Clayton. That's just the name that they put on there for everybody. So, you could just say, oh, he's not here right now, or she's not here right now, but I am, right? So use your name instead of a company, because now, like Instagram and all that, people want a person and they don't want to deal with a company. All right. Faceless company, big business, bad. Little business, homegrown person, good. But look like a little company. And then the response. So, oh, my internet connection is unstable. Okay. So the response, you could put a website on there. You could put an email on there, phone number, any combination of those, just a phone number. So this is what I do, just a phone number. I found that when I mailed out with a website and an email, or a phone number and a website, or a phone number and an email, any combination of those, or all of them, it didn't really get a response. But when I just had the phone number and that was the only way to contact me, got a good response. And of course, you can do call or text. And I think we're out of time. So let me spend the rest of this time. I will do the rest of these slides. So I'm at response. Let me. Oh, it's back here. There we go. Okay, so my contact info. All right. So I'm gonna show y'all this. So this is a font, and I'm covered up like my information, but this is a card that I got. You can see that's definitely a font. The A's are all the same. And then here is the back. Oh, I just noticed this. You can see here, it says yellowletters.com. right there. So they do marketing. You pay to market for yellowletters.com. How bad is that? Here is one. Let me see if I got any info in here. I don't want any fans showing up at my house. Y'all are cool, but we don't know each other like that. Okay, now Open Door, right? The Z buyers, or they call them the I buyers. Really big company, and then they have a little scan thing here. No, not good at all. And then you got an email I can call, and then all of this stuff. Not really good. And you can think sort of to yourself, like, some of this might be good. Just think to yourself, like, would I call that mail piece? Would I respond to them? You know, like if you would hit this person up and be like, hey, if you needed to, which one of these are you most likely to call? And then just do that. Like, if this for some reason is what you would respond to, do this. You know, print it up. You can probably mail merge this too with like their addresses and make it personal. So here is list your home. This is a realtor. Okay. So you can see all of this, and then what they put on there. Really glossy. I don't know if I would ever respond to something like, I would probably toss this thinking that it's a car salesman thing. You know, they do it right over the trash can. Is this a bill? Is this something I need? Toss, toss, toss. This one was really good. And this is a guy that had a story. So this is Flagship REI. And there's not a story here, but he had, and then he's got like his website, and is there a phone number? Yeah, there's a phone number right there. There's a phone number, and you can call it. And this was folded up in a little envelope, so it stuck out, and it was cool. But then you can tell that this is a font, and he didn't actually write this. And the reason why that matters is, like, people will think that you literally wrote that out in the car while you're looking at you're like, oh, I want that house. Let me write them a letter. And when you see this, you're like, oh, that didn't happen here. But when they get a letter like that looks handwritten, they're like, oh yeah, this person is super interested, personally wrote me a letter. The biggest turnoff for a seller is for you to tell them, or you to show them, or for them to assume somehow from something you did that they are on a big list. When you get that seller that says, you know, oh, well, what property are you trying to buy? You know, or they call me and they say, hey, you know, I got a letter for you trying to buy my house, or I got a text or a call saying you wanted to buy my house. And I'm like, oh, okay, good, good, good. What's the address? And I say, well, you called me earlier about the address. And I'm like, dude, I'm out and about. Like, I make like yeah, I've called more than one person. That is a turnoff. So you want to make it seem like you singled that person, you and that person, y'all the only ones. You're not seeing any other sellers. You are a one seller person, a one woman man. Thebigguys.com. Okay. So here we've got the big guys. And see, they've got little guys down there, because they're not really that big, but they're guys. And you know, a whole bunch of reading. All right, a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know how much of this people actually read. Let me know if y'all want me to keep showing you mail pieces. If y'all have questions, you can leave them in the chat or in the Q&A if there's something you want me to cover. And if there's something you really want, I can cover that in, you know, another webinar. I can go deep dive into something, as they say. So this is really thick. So this one's real thick. This is an old one I did Yeah. So Mike here. Yeah, I would suggest dear their name or dear seller up here, and then leave all of this, and you see there's my calling card. Yeah. And this one's like, I think it's a thicker paper. So, okay, so money problems. I saw this one and thought, like, what if you did this kind of marketing? And I've never done this, but like, what if you thought to just say, hey, need money? Sell the house, right? And then I got this one from a seller, so uh, yeah, I can't I can't show you their address, but yeah, but this is the big part: money problems, and then a phone number, right? Free call now. Okay, I can't show you that side, but this one is a font, and this is handwritten font. I believe it's handwrittenpostcards.com, maybe. It was a older guy on Joe's podcast, and I think the website is always something like Joe and whoever is on his podcast.com to get this. But it's the same guy that did probate property gold. That if you've bought that, I've bought a lot of systems before, but he had a system where you would literally draw these out yourself. You could even have them. He had a male and female one in here, and they were done out for you, or you could draw your own, and it was an actual font. The problem, however, is it looks like a real font, but everything's on the right line. All the E's are in the same spot. They're all the same. So for me to use this, I would need like 3 or 4 different E's. I would need a bunch of different ones, and then for them to randomly place them in there. But it does look good, and this one doesn't say it, but some of them, and the ones that he teach actually says God bless on the side. So if you see that, you know. Here is offer pad, and see, I mean, glossy, just ugh. I don't know, but this back side is a lot better, because you think like this, oh, it's easy. It's like no showings, pick your close day, get a free local move. Like we could advertise this to the seller. I don't see anybody advertising that way. I do this all the time, like help them move. Like, do you need to have a tenant? Do you need to get out of there? Is it $500? I'll pay a guy to in a truck to come by. This is one I think I got from a seller. Yeah. I got this from a seller. So I buy houses and all of that stuff. And it's sort of like, it's not cardstock. It's almost like a flyer, maybe. I don't know. It's tougher than cardstock. And this one side over here is real glossy. And then you can see the cash in the hands, and then the house. And then this is one I used to do for funding. So I do funding, and this is all of the stuff I do for the funding. So you see on here, we do all this. And this is a flyer that we send out. But for funding, glossy is okay. This is not a motivated seller. This is a person who needs money to flip a house or for their wholesale deals. This is really good. I mean, as far as they go, I mean, as glossy as this is probably the best. So whatever this is, like, I'm like, oh, I've got to read this. This is interesting. And then on the back, you see, they've got that handwritten font. It's different colors to make you look at it, so you know it's. And then that, turn off. But it got me to look at it because it's got that little chicken on it, ostrich. This one is really good, and I got this one from a seller. Yeah. This one's really good, but you see, it's got the husband and the wife on here. I've seen some. A buddy of my mastermind does it, and I can't show you his, but because they'd kill me, they'd kick me out of the mastermind. But he had him, his wife, and his 2 daughters on there, and it just told you a story about them and how they flipped houses and wanted to better the community and all of that stuff. And then, of course, on the back, you got this right here. And then I think I got this one for a seller, but this was in the door. So it was just not a door hanger, but it was like stuck in the door. And they said I could have it. And I was like, all right, cool. Of course, the seller, I don't think I ended up doing that deal, but they were like, yeah, kind of weird that I wanted the mail, but I didn't care. Here is one that, do I really care about that? No. Oh, yeah. So here's one that I used to do, and this is click to mail, and this was green. And I picked this cartoon here, and it says, what do you need? TLC? Tender love and care? And he says, nope, tons of loose cash. And it's not really funny, haha, but it gets the point across and it stands out. And then you see I referenced them, their name, and their property that we want to buy. And you notice how they're a little off. But they should be. No, they're not off. Oh, that must have been early in the career. I would mark them a little off so that it sticks out. You know, it's a little unprofessional, but it gets them to say, oh, that's that house across the, on the other side of the city that I own that I've been neglecting. And then, yeah, this back is good. Okay. And then you have all this. And of course, this is what my old guru had told me to do. So I put all this, I reiterate what property I want to buy. And you can see there that there's a big gap from where I put the field in click to mail to get it. And then here's the pink. Okay. And now see here, I put it a little off, a little lower. And then for the address, it was completely on the bottom. But there's no cartoon, it's just info. And then on the back, same stuff. Okay. And it's pink. See? That's the same thing as the other one. It's like that. And then same info. Now here I've got one I did where I actually like found an emoji in there. I don't think I actually drew it, but I put that on there and I started using that as my calling card. And this was for cash buyers. So it says, I see you bought this address. And then on the back, I just put a picture of the property. Okay. And you can see back here, there's a bit link, a bit.ly link, and they can go to that link. And there's only like a couple of letters after it. So it'd be easy to type that in. And they would see I think it was Hot Pads or Zillow, whatever. And they would see this image of the property, and then they would see all the details on a web page below it. And then I copied this from somebody else. And you can screenshot that if you want to get what it says. Take a screenshot right now. But I copied that from somebody, where you can just watch the recording again and screenshot it then. So I copied that, all of that stuff, and then the back is a little different. And the guy said, do I still use that number? No. Say crazy simple, and I just copied everything that he did. And yeah, it didn't work really good. I don't remember, but I think that was right when I swapped over to pink. Here's another open door, and it's all glossy. And you see I've removed stuff, so you can't tell it's me. Oh, here's one that's kind of like my buddy's, but you can see here he's got his whole family on there. Super glossy. It's got, I think that's a Better Business Bureau. Yeah. And then it's got, or like, looks like a friend of the community, right? You got your family on there. I think this would go better as a color photo with color instead of black and white, but this is going to stick out. And you know what they say? They say that, I'll show you the back, but they say if you got a business card with your face on it, people are more likely to keep it. So I'm sure that goes for these as well, that they're more likely to keep it. Enlarge the screen. Does that work? I know that once you, yeah, okay. And then once you see this on the recording on your computer, you can just zoom it up and zoom in. And you see, yeah, that Better Business Bureau is really good. And accredited. Oh, and then he's also got this right here. He's a veteran. So yeah, if you're a veteran, definitely put that on there. My dad was a veteran and he got practically nothing for it other than nightmares. So I mean, if you serve the country, you deserve it. So put it on there. Don't think you don't deserve it. Okay. Oh, this is to my wife. And so all the ones with my wife's name on it are ones where they're actually trying to buy this house, which is just crazy to me. But PK buys houses. And then a whole, like, I'm not gonna read all that. Like, I read audio books like on Audible. Like, there's no way I'm reading all this. And I might make a snap decision and just call the number. But it's just a lot to ask. And then of course this person you're sending this to is gonna be distraught, or they're gonna be in a situation that they're trying to get out of. And they probably get other ones like this, so they're not going to be really reading everything. Oh my gosh. I've shown these before. Funny. I make fun of these guys all the time, but it's all in good fun because, it's a franchise, so whoever you deal with them, I think it's like 10,000, and you get your little county or zip code and all the deals come into you, but you call this number, Pat Drake. That's the name, Pat Drake. It's always Pat. There's no real person named Pat Drake. But you can see it's Home Vestors. It is We Buy Ugly Houses people. And it's a franchise. So they pay 10,000, they get that little spot. Whenever they call that number, it's always the same. And I believe this is the company that sends these out. Once you pay 10,000, you have your little spot. They send these out. They do online marketing. They do billboards. One time there was a crash in Atlanta that happened, and from the crash there was it was next to a bus stop, and on the side of the bus stop, no, it was a big billboard, and the billboard said, "We buy ugly houses," and it was like the best. It was all over the news. People saw it. I mean, it was just free marketing. And then of course somewhere in here it says to keep this with your house papers, which is really good. So you might want to add that. keep this with your house papers. So they might keep this with their like deed and stuff, and later on when they decide to really sell it, they might, you want them to keep a hold of it. And here's one called Home Go. Let's see if this is not personal at all. And it was like, so on here, this is Home Go. I mean, they've got this going for them, but I don't know if I would ever call this. This is like something I would get from Kaiser. You know, you can probably screenshot that, and there's always something you can take from these, like, you know, our licensed agents, if you're an agent, and just, you know, things you can do and say to get people to call in, make them feel at ease. If people in your area like talking to an agent, then do that, you know, by all means. Do whatever it will that will get people calling in and talking to you. So that's all the mail pieces that I got. Again, if you go to a house or a seller and you see some mail, ask them for it. Try to get that mail from them, because, or at least take a picture of it. All right, so are there any other questions? I think we'll end it here. And if there are no questions, I'll end it here. And then next week, I will show you how to, we'll go on Click to Mail and we'll design a postcard in Click to Mail, because Click to Mail is amazing. I mean, anything you can put in there, you'll put it in there and put it up. And then I'll show you how to do it on batch driven, which will take like 2 seconds. I've done that before, and I can't do, maybe we'll do some list pulling. I'll pull a list in batch driven, and then I'll pull a list in list source. I think you can pull a list in list source, and they've gotten smart now, so I won't be able to buy it, obviously, and show you. And then I think, is there any other list that I can show you? No, I don't pay for that one anymore. I think that's it. Oh, and then I will go to the site about the new one that I haven't done yet, but it will send an offer on the postcard. So it'll send a postcard, and it's the handwritten font guy. And I think he teams up with Joe, the bald guy with the goatee. And he's just like, he reminds me of a youth pastor. He's like every youth pastor, you know, that wears all the hip clothes, the Hot Topic stuff, the studded belt, trying to be cool, but he's got like a goatee, and he's on a podcast. He does lease options, that guy. Joe something. Anyway, I will get that website pulled up, and we will go read that, because, you know, if you decide to use that as your mail and have that mail for you, y'all are going to be a step ahead of everybody else by sending them an offer on the mail piece. And hopefully maybe we can watch a video on how it actually works and how you can set that offer in there, because it's such a pain to have people be like, well, how much do you want for it? Well, what's your offer? And that way you can just tell them straight up. So by the time they call you back, they already agree to the offer. Oh, I'll take it. Or, hey, I need an extra $5,000 on top. And you've set your offer so low that it's a good deal anyway. All right. So we're not doing it every week now. We're doing it every other week. So the next one is on the 21st. So the 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think it will actually, the site will correct that for you. And then I'll see you then. You can call me, text me, follow me, let me know if you have any questions. And I'll be in the Facebook group, and I'll see y'all 2 weeks from now, or maybe on another webinar. All right. I'm Mike the Wholesaler. I'll see you.